Mix-up that it was a technical mix-up that Susan and I managed to figure out and correct in a timely manner.
Beautiful.
Okay, so thank you everybody for being here. This is wonderful. What a great group. See some familiar faces and some new faces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be running this up to a point, and then Susan's going to take over. So I'm going to do the announcements, and Susan's going to do our prayer, our opening prayer, and then I'm going to introduce Susan, and then she's going to take over. Okay, so this is what we've got. So the first thing in the announcements is that IBRT has a LinkedIn account through Peter, and it would be great if you could follow and like the page. I can't show it to you. It's going to be in the newsletter. But if you go to LinkedIn and look for International Board for Regression Therapy, you'll find us. And it would be really nice if people could do that and like the posts and be part of that. Another announcement is Holly did a podcast with an interview with a podcast called Audible River. And her topic was psychology and spirituality. And she invites everyone to go to Audible River podcast. Oh, you know what? This again, this one I could probably put in chat, and you can see it.
It's really great. It's really great.
There we go. It's in chat. She's inviting everyone to go and listen to it and listen to some of his other podcasts. And maybe even get a chance to be interviewed yourself. So she wants everyone to check it out. We've got a book club coming up on the 30th of November, and it is Georgina Cannon's newest book, Your Guide to Self-Discovery, and it is on November 30th, 4 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Central, and 7 p.m. Eastern. So please join us for that. That's going to be really cool. Okay, the next gatherings. So the gatherings for the rest of this year and I'm reading this off the newsletter. That's why I look weird. Our November gathering takes place on the 16th at the usual times, 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and 7 p.m. And it is going to be a class for members only, all members, certified members, affiliate members, and student members, but members. Deborah Jacobs, who is our social media guru, is going to teach us a basic, hands-on, interactive workshop with Facebook, how to sign on to an account, how to create a public page, how to post to a page. And it's open to all IBRT members, and it's free, and it's going to be, I think, incredibly useful, both for those of us who are babies when it comes to using social media, and those who already are using it, but maybe could pick up a few new pieces of information. So that's on the 16th of November. Then the 30th, we have the book club. December's gathering is going to be on the 21st of December, 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and 7 p.m. And it's going to be a members-only social gathering. We're going to have a solstice celebration because that's the solstice. And we will get together and just share things. So if you have a poem or some music or a ritual that you would like to share with the group, bring it to our solstice gathering, bring a candle to light, and we'll have a really nice time. I wish we could share food and drink, but you can bring a drink and have it with you if you want. Nothing wrong with that. So that's going to be the 21st of December. Our January gathering is going to be a second class with Deborah Jacobs, our social media guru. And that's on the 15th of January, 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. And it's going to be a workshop, how to make professional style posts for social media using Canva, which is what Susan is going to be using. Learn how to create the 3 different kinds of posts that work. And it's, again, open to only IBRT members only, and it's free. So if you're not an IBRT member yet, even if affiliate member or student member, join, and then you can do all these cool stuff, and it's for free. In February, Holly is going to do a talk on angel magic, which is going to be really interesting. The date is the 22nd of February, 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and 7 p.m. So that is open to the general public, but if you're not a member, you will have to pay the $20, which is not that bad, quite reasonable. So I think that's all the announcements I have for you.
Peter has an announcement.
Peter has an announcement. Okay, Peter, please.
I would like to congratulate our newest board certified member,
Yes.
Yasmin Wadia, who has just received that designation. So thank you for joining us, Yasmin, and
Thank
yay
you.
you. We're
Welcome,
delighted to have you.
welcome. Yay,
I'm
you.
really happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Yay, you. Very good. Okay, so Susan, would you like to do our opening prayer?
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I invite you to settle in, and if you wish, close your eyes and place all of your attention on your breath. Simply be mindful and intentional with your breath. Take a few intentional breaths at your own pace and allow the exhale to be slightly longer than your inhale so that you can begin to relax. You may begin to sense comfort and ease moving into your body. Breathe into the space around your heart and expand the capacity of the space. With each breath out, let go of tensions, let go of distractions, and let go in this moment to all that no longer serves you. As you drop into your heart space, become aware of all of the intentions you hold for your service to community, service to mankind, service to the earth plane and beyond, and the service you bring to the elevating of the collective consciousness. We come together in this spiritual collaboration with an open mind, an open heart. Take a moment to focus on gratitude. Think about all of the things in your life that bring you joy and appreciation. It could be a loved one, a beautiful moment in nature, our clients, or the simple blessings of everyday life. Feel the warmth of gratitude in your heart. In this circle, we honor and respect each other's individual journey and unique path. Let us release any judgments or preconceptions we may hold. Instead, let us offer love and understanding to one another, creating a safe space for growth and transformation. As we close this meditation, let us carry the sense of peace, love, and interconnectedness with us throughout our day. May we spread this energy to others we encounter, creating ripples of positivity in the world around us. And so it is.
So, Thank you, Susan. That was lovely.
You're welcome.
Now I'm going to introduce Susan to you. This is Susan Lyons. She's a board-certified regression therapist, Reiki master, and a hypnotherapy teacher at the HCH Institute. She has been leading past life regression and psychospiritual integration monthly meetups for the HCH Institute since 2017. When COVID hit in March 2020, which I'm sure we all remember, she skillfully transformed this meetup into a monthly Zoom gathering. In this presentation, Susan will focus on how you can foster a secure and enriching environment on Zoom as you lead attendees on profound past life journeys, and then encourage them to share their personal experiences with their colleagues online. These same skills can help you successfully lead any group discussion on Zoom. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Susan Lyons. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Don't forget to mute yourself, everybody, not Susan.
Yes, that would be interesting. Let's see. Before we begin, I just have a quick question for everybody. Is there anybody here present today that is currently leading past life regression groups online? And if you are, just maybe raise your hand. Okay, beautiful. Fantastic. Fantastic. Is there anybody here that's not doing this, but would like to, and they're not sure about how to do this and make it safe? Okay, fantastic. Really great to know. So I'm aware that some past life regressionists believe that this is not safe or appropriate. And so I'm not here to convince you to do anything that you don't feel is appropriate. So, I mean, obviously, do what you feel is right for you and your clients. But I have been doing this for the last 3.5 years. I modified a system that I had for the in-person past life groups that I was doing. And then, as Kiki said, when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, that was the last in-person group that I held at HCH. I actually have one up in the area where I live now that I'm leading, but continue to do the monthly HCH past life meetup. So when the pandemic hit, I had to ask myself some questions about how I felt about leading these groups online, some really important questions. And for starters, I wasn't even, I'm going to be just really transparent here. Before the pandemic, I didn't even feel comfortable doing one-on-one past life regressions online. So I had to really change my way of thinking. And I just want to say, we're going to get into this in a minute, but there was some things that I had to, like I said, ask myself about why this would be appropriate to continue. So I'm going to start to share a slideshow with you, and we're going to go over all of the ingredients that I use when I lead this past life group. Okay. And then after the slideshow, we'll open up for questions and comments and sharing. Okay. So let's see here. Can everybody see this okay? Yes? Yeah, okay, perfect. Perfect. All right. So these are the things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about integrity, the pros and cons of leading a group online, laying the foundations, the setup for the process of the past life regression, tips and tools that I use and go over with clients before we start the regression, and then the closing and the sharing that we do with the clients after the regression for them to process their experience and share with the rest of the group. Okay. So again, I had to ask myself some questions, okay? Why do I want to continue? So these are some of the reasons. It creates community, connects like-minded people, validates their experience, a spiritual outlet, and they don't even need to leave their home. Okay. So also traffic and driving and parking, all of those things are mitigated. In fact, this actually opened up the experience to people who lived a distance away and couldn't be in person, and possibly from other countries and other states. In addition to the fact that not everybody has the financial resources to do a one-on-one regression. So this is a way that they can participate and understand the process, even if they don't have the financial resources. And also, some people need to practice doing this work for a little bit to trust the process. So this also prepares them for doing one-on-one past life regression. So practice, 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 so that we can learn to trust the experience, okay? So setting the foundations for a safe and effective group regression therapy session online. The most important thing, and this is the same when we are leading in-person groups and when we're facilitating one-on-one groups. We can educate the attendees on the process and how to take care of themselves, okay? I trust that the attendees are brought here by spirit, and that I believe that their higher self has the wisdom to guide them to an experience that they're ready for, okay? I think we all can agree that we feel that way even with our one-on-one clients that are matched with us, okay? Spirit is guiding this process, so I've learned to trust that, okay? So I believe, that this is a safe process as long as we feel comfortable educating our clients around this. Okay, pros and cons, okay? Ability to mute, okay? They're in the privacy of their own home. They're in the comfort of their own space. They can have their favorite cup of tea, their blanket, etc. Okay? Again, this eliminates needing to travel and creates a wider community reach. So the cons might be distractions in their home, okay? They may not feel like they're in a private enough space with family around to speak openly about these topics. And I'm also not physically in the room to support them. This is why the education process about how clients can take care of themselves is so paramount to this experience, okay? So I've been doing this successfully for 3.5 years, creating a safe container. And I want to be honest, without issue, okay? And we can get into some questions about that when we open up for the Q&A. But this has been pretty much without incident. Also very important, as a facilitator, what is the energy that I am bringing to this Zoom call, okay? I am always bringing in the trust that everybody's going to have some kind of an experience, some kind of a shift in consciousness, or have a takeaway for something that's going to be helpful to them, okay? I don't walk in with this, with the thinking that something's going to go wrong or any kind of fear, okay? I really want to bring in that positive energy to help create that safe container, okay? The first thing that happens even before the Zoom call starts, okay, I have some specific reminders in the Zoom invite that I send out that the attendees must have the video turned on for the pre and post conversation. I can't begin to say how important I think this is. And when I started doing this, even as a newbie, I felt this was really important that we all see each other's face so that we can feel comfortable in sharing. I think that people hiding behind a black screen when we're sharing important information does not create a safe container, because we can kind of all see how we feel about everybody's body language, okay? So also in the reminder, leaving time and space for everyone to share. So that's just a reminder that we want to let everybody have the opportunity to speak and ask questions and share their experience. And then again, we trust our higher self's intelligence that we are all brought here because we were invited here. We were drawn to this, okay? Okay, laying the foundation. So we open up the conversation And I'm going to get into the process with that. But there's a couple of, there's several tips that I sprinkle throughout the conversation leading up to the regression. And if they're not covered in the organic conversation that comes up, there's a space that I leave right before we go into the regression to talk to people about what they might experience and how to take care of themselves. And so some of these tips are, okay, you're in control at all times. You can count yourself out of hypnosis or simply open your eyes. Okay, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Okay, you're in control. Again, we express, or I express rather, that self-care is paramount. Okay, and encourage the attendees to do what they need to do. If they need to log out of Zoom and do something to take care of themselves, okay. If they need to call a friend for support, if they need to take a nap, whatever it is that they need to do, I invite them to do that. And also, very importantly, and I'll bring this up again later, I always invite people, if they need to reach out through email to me, if they need more help integrating the process, okay? And I do occasionally get sharing in emails and questions, okay? Also explaining that our higher self and the concept of the higher self, and that the higher self is guiding this process, okay? Okay. So now that we've laid the groundwork for a successful online group therapy session, we can begin a step-by-step facilitation process. Okay. Again, we create a safe space by asking participants to agree to have their video turned on. And this hasn't really been an issue. I've had to remind some people, but I haven't had anybody deviate from this. Okay. So I begin by introducing myself and the intention for the monthly class, for this month's class. Also, I talk to them about technology, having themselves on mute if they're not speaking, how to raise a Zoom hand, okay? Very important to make sure that any phones that might ding in the background or ding through their computer are turned off. And mitigating any background noises. And there was one more thing about technology that I wanted to say, and I'm not remembering right now. Make sure you have enough power on your computer or it's plugged in, okay? So, and then I basically go around the room and I ask every one of the attendees to introduce themselves and say a little bit about why they were inspired to be here. I feel like this kind of connects the group and kind of starts to get the conversation going, okay? And then I leave some space to address any questions before we get into the discussion, okay? So they may have some questions, again, like about higher self, will they be in control? They may have not had an experience of hypnotherapy and want to know a little bit more about how this works. So we address any questions. Oops, excuse me. Okay. And then again, we weave into the conversation some of the tips to help them feel safe and supported while they're in their regression, okay? Such as explaining that not everybody sees in a past life regression, okay? Some people feel or get a sense or a knowing, and that's just as important, if not more important than what we see. We need to learn to trust our intuition and to go with that. Also, talking to them about becoming an observer of a scene if something upsetting is happening within the regression, okay? Ideally, we all like to be in the past life body looking out through our past life eyes. Sometimes the higher self, as you all know here, has the wisdom to take us out and show us the scene like we're watching a movie, but we always have the option to ask that within ourselves if we're in the middle of the regression and something uncomfortable is happening. And then also if the attendee gets stuck in the middle of the regression, because again, with these groups, there's not a conversation going on. So they need to have the wisdom to ask for help if they get stuck. Okay. So we dive into then some content regarding the topic for the month. Okay. So for example, if we're doing a past life regression on relationships, okay. So I might bring in some information about past life relationships. Like, for example, how do you know you've had a past life relationship? What are some of the signs that you see in your everyday life that you feel very, very connected to that person? Okay. So I'll toss out some content for them to get their juices flowing. Then very important thing that I also did this when I was leading this group in person, setting an intention. Okay, we do this with one-on-one clients. And when I do this with the group, I have a couple of questions that I will toss out to the group right before we go into the regression to help them start to kind of fine tune their intention. And this might be, again, I'll use the example for past life relationships. Is there someone in your current life that you believe you've known in a past life? Okay, so they can start to think about this. And what are the reasons that you believe this? Okay, so I give them a few minutes to think about these questions and maybe jot down some of their thoughts and feelings to, again, fine tune their intention. Okay, I give them a break to settle in comfortably, decide what kind of position they'd like to have for themselves, use the bathroom, etc. Okay. And then we begin. I always like to begin with some kind of a prayer or a mantra to set the tone and energy for the session. Some kind of a protective, I like to use the soul star or some kind of a version of a protective vortex. Okay. So if it hadn't have come up before in the conversation, the tips that I give right before we walk into the regression. And there's a few of them here, and I may add in a few others, okay? I explain that there's many parts to the regression, okay? There's many stages that we want to look at to kind of give us a nice picture of the past life. For example, significant events that come up in the past life that are connected to our current life. People that we may recognize from a past life that we know in this life, okay? We may step into a different gender in the past life. And obviously the death experience, very important, and the in-between, okay? Where we get to reflect on how the past life is affecting our current life and what do we need to do to heal it? And that's where we bring in the healing. Okay. Also, I explained that this is a beautiful, fun, and creative process. And so instead of having an attachment to an outcome, let go. We're asking them to let go. Okay. Because of the position of my screen, I can't see this last one. Yeah. So we talk about how they can be prepared and what they can expect during the regression. Okay. So in the regression, I bring in the awareness of the higher self and the guides at least a couple of times. I sprinkle this throughout the induction deepener and right before we step into the past life, so they feel safe and supported. Okay. And then when the regression is finished, it's usually about 45 to 50 minutes, again, with only me speaking. Okay. And then when we return, I ask again that the attendees be back on screen when we open up for questions and sharing. Okay. And this is where I bring in the integration. So again, I will ask them a few questions to help them reflect on their experience. For example, if we use the example of past life relationships again, who is the person that you encountered in the past life that you know in your current life? What did you learn about the relationship? And will you do anything different in your current incarnation now that you've had this experience? So again, I'll give them about 10 minutes to reflect on these questions to help them integrate their experience. Okay. So this is a kind of an interesting thing that I love to do because I'm also very curious, and sometimes, especially if the attendees are on screen, I can tell who's having an experience, okay? And some of the attendees like to have their screen off during the regression, but I like to gauge my effectiveness. So before we get into questions and sharing, and I make it very clear to the attendees that questions and sharing are optional. Some people take longer to integrate than others. So if you feel safe and you'd like to share your experience, it also helps to validate the experiences of other people that are in the group. But I ask them whether or not you'd like to share. Would you mind raising your hand if you had some kind of an experience, even if you haven't unpacked it, okay? If something interesting happened, raise your hand. Oops. Excuse me. And almost always, and this is about the same percentage as I get with one-on-one clients, 98% of the time, people have something that they take out of this experience. So again, checking on how efficient the presentation was. And then I open up for questions and sharing. And we have a discussion. I oftentimes will ask open-ended questions during their sharing experience and look for the aha moment. Okay. And again, you know, I think the sharing is really important for the other people in the group because it also validates their experience. Oh, maybe I'm making this up. Well, maybe not, because I'm hearing these other experiences and they're beautiful. So maybe I can trust what just happened here in my experience. Okay. I answer any questions also that might come up, because there's sometimes questions that come up about if they did not have an experience. So once in a while, you'll have a neighbor's dog barking, or maybe your child crying in another room in the background. There are some distractions that sometimes affect their ability to have an experience. And those are things that maybe I can't control on my end, okay? So I address any questions that might come up. I fell asleep, or they just don't trust their experience. They maybe believe that they are making it up. Okay, so we have a conversation around that. And then at the closing, I give gratitude to everybody that showed up for the experience, and I announce what's on the docket for the following month, so that they can kind of have that in the back of their mind if they're interested in joining, okay? One other thing I do right before the closing is I do address and I bring up the difference between a group online regression and a one-on-one session. So I explained that one-on-one sessions are more custom tailored to the individual's experience, okay? I'll be honest, I can't begin to tell you how many people have come from one-on-one regressions after having these online experiences. It's helped me build my business. So they become very intrigued. They love this. They love the community. And they're like, okay, let me take this another step further. Maybe they have another specific topic that they'd like to work on. So it's important, I think, to explain the difference between a one-on-one and group regression. Okay. So the general recipe here: technology and reminders when we start the group, making sure you have your devices plugged in, you've mitigated any phones that might disturb you or bring you out of the regression, how to raise a Zoom hand, okay? Introductions for myself and the topic, and then having everybody in the group introduce themselves so we can create a cohesive environment. Discussion and Q&A around the topic for the evening. Setting our intention for the regression. This is where I toss out those couple questions for them to marinate on before we go in the regression. And then tips and self-care. I like to do this in full for anything that hasn't been brought up right before we go into the regression. And then after the regression, again, the integration, tossing out a couple questions for them to help integrate the experience, and then sharing and Q&A. Okay, wrap up and then announcing next month's topic. So I'd love to open up for questions, thoughts, concerns. I'd be really curious, especially for those of you that are also leading online groups. Yes, Peggy.
This is great. Thank you. I've been thinking about doing this. I'm wondering about your format. So you do this monthly
Yes.
with the same group of people?
So this is a monthly group that meets on the first Wednesday of every month from 7 to 9:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's been the same day even before the pandemic and same time before the pandemic started.
So the same people come.
Not
And
the
how many people? Oh,
Yeah.
it's not the same people.
So we have invitations that go out through HCH because they are my partner in this. The invitations, there's a constant contact invitation that goes out a couple of times a few days before the meetup, and then we also have social media. Okay, so we let people in the community know that are on the mailing list that this is happening. And there are some people that come every single month. And then there's a mix of the rest. People come and go depending on the topic. There's often new people. And anywhere from 10 to 20 people. So
Is 20 your max?
I like to keep it at 20.
Sure.
I kept it at 20 when we were doing this in person more because of the seating arrangement to keep everybody comfortable. But I feel also for doing this online, I think it's a little more cohesive if we can keep it 20 or below. Yeah. And I think we actually have something on the registration that says that there's limited space, so it will cut off after a certain point. Great questions. Thank you.
And do you do it for free?
It's $30 a month. I believe it's actually going up the next year. So there is a small charge for it, but I think it's a very affordable because it's 2.5 hours long, everything all together. Great questions. Yeah. Yes, Yasmin.
Hi. Thank you for the presentation. That was really helpful. So do you by any chance ask them to sign a consent or a waiver since they're going in for a group regression?
No.
No.
No, that's a great question. And we also didn't when we were doing the in-person group regressions. I mean, for me personally, any client that I see one-on-one, they have to fill out some disclosures and paperwork, etc. Yeah.
Right, but not in the case of the group regression. Okay.
Nope.
And in terms of the actual execution of the regression, so because it's a large group, how do you gauge how much time to give them before you move them from one scene to the next?
Yes, excellent question. Also want to point out every single month, and we plan this out a year ahead, it's a different topic. So we have a specific topic that we go into looking at. And I tend to do a little longer inductions and pauses when I'm doing this with a group online. Because some people, as you know, get information quicker than others.
Right.
So I've just, somehow this just has organically kind of worked. And maybe because of my experience, I've been doing this 10 years officially now as a practitioner. And then also doing this in groups where I could see people. So I've kind of started to gauge what the pacing and leading should be. That's not going to work 100% of the time. Some people are in a particular part of the experience where they felt like, oh, I really wish I would have had more time. I do leave space right before the death experience where I allow time and space and a quite a longer pause for them to ask for any other information that would be helpful to know and have their higher self guide them through that experience. So yeah. Yeah, it is a glitchy little thing, like how much time and space, because all the experiences are going to be slightly different.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Virginia.
Speaking of the death experience, how do you prepare them in case the death experience is difficult or challenging?
Yeah. In the tips and the conversation discussion that I'm having about how to keep yourself safe.
Okay.
So we do talk about the death experience and about if anything unpleasant is occurring, you have the option of rising above and looking at the scene as an observer so that you get the content without having to feel uncomfortable.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a conversation. Yes.
Same
Specifically.
as you would with a one-on-one then.
Absolutely. I want to say I spend a good amount of time talking about things they may experience and how to keep themselves safe. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great questions. Peter. I think you're on mute.
You mentioned bringing in higher self and guides. How do you structure that? How do you phrase that as far as they're concerned?
Yeah, we ask your higher self and guides. We invite in your higher self and guides to walk you on this journey today, so that you are safe and protected, and that you will remember what you're ready to know, learn, and heal. So something like that. And I usually start the first intention after my opening prayer or mantra with an intention of bringing higher selves and guides in for support. And I usually mention it either one or two other places in the regression, and especially right before I walk them into their past life body, bringing in the higher self and guides again.
Thank you.
Like to remind them many times that they are safe and supported and ready for this journey. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, Peggy.
Do you do any kind of a soul retrieval with the group?
So I do not with the group. I do have one of our monthly intentions though is soul retrieval. Yeah, and it is obviously going to be more open-ended. Yeah, yeah. I bring in healing, but in one-on-one regressions, absolutely would bring in soul retrieval or cord cutting, or Yeah,
but not the group.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. I wish I could. If you figure out a way, let me.
I don't know. No, that's what I was wondering. How would you do that? Because it's so personal.
Yeah.
Customized.
Yeah. Obviously, the ingredients for a one-on-one are going to be very different than a group, because this is, asking open-ended questions that are not specific to their experience. So, yeah. Christine, did you have your hand raised?
Yes. I had a question about, do you talk about trauma and discuss that they might be experiencing some of that, or just describe it, or how to work through it if they get caught in that?
Yeah. Again, when we talk about safety and taking care of yourself, becoming the observer if you need to, if you're very uncomfortable about coming out of the regression, okay, going for a walk, taking a shower, calling a friend for support. And also they're welcome to send me an email if they feel like they need support. And actually last month, for example, there was somebody who is a reoccurring person that was in the group. And when she came out of it, she was contemplative and some things happened, but she quite hadn't unpacked it. And she emailed me and said, I have a couple questions. And I met with her on Zoom for 15 minutes and we talked it through. And so she felt complete. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah. Anything else? Any concerns that anybody would like to bring up or talk through? Because I understand this is it's kind of a sticky subject. Yes,
May I? Yeah. So you don't insist that everybody's video is on during the regression then? If
No.
they would rather not, it's okay.
It's okay. And I haven't had any issues.
Okay.
If they have it on, it actually does help me to kind of read the energy of the room.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
I think some people might feel strange. I wouldn't, but but definitely the video must be on during the pre and post conversation. Nobody hiding behind a blank screen. Virginia.
Okay, so this is something that happened the very first time I did a past life regression workshop with Thelma Friedman. And I was wondering how one copes with this situation with the online group. Have you ever had someone, so like you want them to move through the death experience or the trauma. If you need to, step back, distance yourself, keep yourself safe. What if someone fails to do that and they're having trouble, but it's a group? And when I did it with Thelma, she was able to go over to that individual and very quietly bring them back and keep them comfortable and deal with it. But she was whispering in their ear.
Yeah.
You can't do that with the group.
Can't do that with the group.
So how do you deal with it?
All I can say is I do the very best that I can about educating these attendees about what they might experience and how to protect themselves if they get into trouble. I really believe in the wisdom of our higher self, that our higher selves would not bring somebody to the group that is not ready to handle what's happening. So, maybe our higher self is going to show us an experience that might unpack something, but maybe it wasn't actually something traumatic, or maybe it's not at the root, right? Maybe it's more of an anecdotal life around that subject. But I really believe that our higher self is going to bring us to what we're ready to know and learn. It's not going to offer it up in this scenario if we're not prepared for it. And I very rarely have had people. I had the best I can tell you is I had one person one time not come back on for the post discussion, and she was somebody that I had worked with one-on-one, and she sent me an email and she said that was really intense and I had to stop and get in the shower. So she knew how to take care of herself. And here's the other thing, and I think maybe some of you here, probably most of you here, have had this experience. So I've been doing this professionally now for 10 years. The kind of people that are coming for this work have evolved on a spiritual level dramatically since I started doing this. So I think people are becoming very knowledgeable and learning how to trust these experiences. I really do. I really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other concerns or questions? Yes.
I have a quick question. Do you think it would be possible to do spirit releasement in a group activity, like a group setting like this?
I would never do that. That to me is very specific. Yeah.
Just kind of curious
Yes.
if anyone had done it. Or even not even on Zoom or remote, but in person group.
Yeah, that is one subject that I don't think I would feel comfortable with, especially on Zoom, because they may really need some support, right?
Okay.
Some emotional support, physical
Thank
support.
you.
Yeah. Yes, Susan.
I was wondering if you would tell us about some of the themes that you do use, and do you ever recycle, or is it different every time, even though it's always past life, right? It's always past life regression.
Yeah, so excellent question. So I do recycle, but I have a nice large grouping of different topics, and so I mix it up every year. Most all of them are past lives, past life physical injuries and ailments, fears and phobias, past life relationships, a past life in which you survived extreme adversity and thrived, most abundant past life. Those would be some examples. But I do have some other things that I do as well. Future life. So the future in this lifetime, and also future your next lifetime. Okay, we tend to have really great conversations around time and how there is no such thing as time. The in-between, the interlife, soul retrieval. Next Wednesday, yes, it's next Wednesday, actually talking with the dead, which I tend to do that around this time of year every year, and I love that process. There's also another one that I haven't done in a while, actually, getting to know your higher self and spirit guides.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I do want to toss a few other things in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the title of the group is Past Life Therapy and Psychospiritual Integration. So it feels appropriate to kind of tie in some other topics. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was very inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes, Peter.
For payment of this, when you are asking people to pay, especially first timers, how is that handled?
Yeah, excellent question. So because I'm in partnership with HCH, so when I started doing this, I was invited by Holly from HCH to start this in person. And in person, I was trying to get everybody situated, make sure everybody was comfortable and taking payment, and it became way too much. So even before the pandemic happened, they had to pre-register online. Okay, so basically what happens is the money goes through HCH and the names are populated onto a spreadsheet, so then I can see who's attending, so I can kind of gauge that. So it's all done electronically.
And the announcements that go out before, you mentioned 2 announcements typically for each week, and when do they sent out in relation to the night that it's going to be held?
I love these questions. Okay, so constant contact from HCH goes out about 10 days before, and then a couple of days before. Okay, and then social media, it's posted on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. And Instagram and Facebook, again, it's about a week before and then a couple of days before. And then I also send out I have a mailing list as well that I send out from my personal constant contact. And then also on my social media, I repost or create a post. So yeah. You got to let everyone know so that everybody has an opportunity to show up. Yes, Joanne.
Just one tip on that I've learned over the years. I finally had to, in the information I would send out, put a cutoff for registration to be the day before, because inevitably, I can't tell you how many times, literally 10 minutes before the group would begin, somebody would be calling me on my phone, trying to get in. I mean, the one thing about this is, for those of us that are not totally seamless with technology, it can be just the moving parts can really test your calm. So put a deadline of the day before, and even if you stretch it, somebody calls you the next morning, but you just can't leave it open-ended. You'll be driven crazy by people who decide 5 minutes before that they're free.
Yeah, excellent point. And we do have a cutoff. Ours is 5:30 the night of.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. So 5:30 the night, we had to do that for that specific reason. Not just also with the in-person, people were showing up after we already started and had the chairs set up, and it's very distracting. So yeah, we asked that people are on time at the cutoff, and I believe people can't register after, it's cut off. So, because I can't be fumbling around with trying to get the link and everything. So once people sign up, there's a link that automatically goes to them. And then we also send one out the day of, so that it's at the top of their email and that they know where they're going. So they get that a couple of times either. But excellent point. Very important to have a cutoff time. Yeah. So I'm not the most tech savvy person either. So that kind of stuff gets me, I need to feel calm and relaxed going. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Yes, Peggy. Oh,
Thanks
I'll get
for
to
answering all
everyone.
these questions. So just a point of clarification, when you're talking about the themes, you did mention soul retrieval. So is that, and you said you didn't do that with the regression. So is that just a month where you just talk about what that is, but you're not actually doing a regression?
Yeah, I do have kind of an open-ended soul retrieval that I do as its own topic. Yes, but I
Okay.
don't bring that in
Okay.
to the individual, not individual, to the past life regressions online. Yeah. Yeah, and it's more open-ended, obviously. But people get tons of information and
Mhm.
tons of healing. So again, I think it's just so important to, this is one of my favorite things. Past life regression is like my favorite thing in the world to talk about. And it's when I was invited to lead these groups in person, I was so excited and so happy. And so I just couldn't not continue, because I really feel like, especially during the pandemic, people needed more support than ever, and they do right now as well. So it was, I felt this was something that we could work with and continue. So, and I'm so passionate about it that, I bring that energy. I try to bring that energy with every interaction that we have. And Shelley, were you raising your hand?
Yes, thank you. I'm just curious if you've had any, anyone have an experience of past life on another planet or aliens, and has that posed a different set of situations that you've had to address, or?
It makes for such an interesting and beautiful conversation. And actually, one of the topics is non-human incarnation. So people have spontaneously gone to non-human incarnation in a past life regression or in a future life. But we do have that, and I'm really into this stuff. I'm really into the non-human incarnation. I think it's fantastic, and I think there's so much we can learn there. From a different perspective than inside this human body. So absolutely. And it makes for really, really rich conversation. Yeah. Virginia.
When's the next time you're going to do one with a non-human incarnation?
I don't. I'm still planning for next year. We've already done it this year, but it will be on absolutely. It sounds like you're intrigued by it. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Yeah. Yes, Peter.
You post the upcoming several months ahead, what the topics will be? Okay.
In January, there will be, when people go to HCH Institute offerings, and then the drop down, I think it's under the low fee offerings, the drop down past life meetup. When you go to that page, it has information about this group. It has information about me and the lineup for the entire year. Yeah, I think it's important to have that out there, because some people might be like, oh, that looks so intriguing. I better let me plan for that now, right? Make sure I'm available. So yeah. All great questions, everybody. Sarah.
So I don't have a question as much as a comment, because you had wanted to hear from people that do this. And I just wanted to say that I love the idea of topics, because the way that I was taught to do group regression, it was just like you had one format and this is what you were doing. So I love the idea of all the different topics. I'm just sitting here like thinking of as many topics as I could possibly branch off. So could you tell us a little bit about your process of like catering, like creating your inductions for, choose an example session, and like how you direct that?
So I'll give you an example, like for fears and phobias, for example, I like to do the cloud, the safe cloud, right? You're in the safety of your cloud and all you need to do is say safe place. So I try to pick inductions and deepeners that feel like that they're cohesive, right? Like that they make sense and they're supportive of whatever the content is. Yeah. And I want to address something that Susan, you'd asked. Even though I do sometimes recycle, I will switch up the inductions and deepeners. Like it's not going to be like just the same script every time I do fears and phobias. It's going to be modified, right? So that if somebody came last year, this is a new experience for them. So I try to keep it interesting. Sarah, did I answer your question? Yeah. I love all the questions. Yes, Shelley.
Yeah, I'm just curious, do you ever suggest any maybe post-regression homework topics where they can expand and deepen, anchor in their learnings?
Absolutely, yes. Oftentimes people will say, well, I got something, but I was kind of missing some things. And I will say, when you go to bed tonight, set the intention with your higher self to bring you more information. That or journaling. Yeah. So we definitely do talk about what they can do on their own: journaling, meditating, asking your higher self for more information. If there's something, maybe for example, talking with the dead, that's coming up next week. The loved one on the other side that you interacted with, maybe you want to create some kind of an offering out in nature to honor and respect and thank them for their visit. So those kind of things. But yeah, another excellent question. Yes, Joanne.
That just made me think of something. I always thought that one of the most brilliant things that Helen Wambach did was when she brought everybody out of those group sessions, she would have them sit. Before she brought them out, she'd give them the prompt that they were going to sit quietly and write the answers to her survey. So one of the things I've done is before I bring people up, I tell them they're going to sit quiet. Well, I've already told them, but I give them the prompt that they'll sit quietly to write keywords and phrases so that to follow up when they go home, they can fill out the story, or when they're thinking about it the next day, they've got the kind of skeleton of what they remember without having an audio recording of what they experienced.
Excellent. And I'll piggyback on that. When we come out of the regression and I throw out those couple of questions that are specific, that is for them to write down that 10-minute time for them to use the bathroom, get water, and write down some key points from their experience so that they can revisit it. Yes, Virginia.
To piggyback on that, when I've only done them in person, that my prompt is, before you talk to anybody or share any part of your story, write it down. Because it's like in a dream, as soon as the conscious mind kind of kicks in with, well, where's my pencil? Oh, I need to drink of water. It starts to fade.
Yeah.
So before you move or anything, start writing it down, whatever you want to write down. And then it's easier to recall the details.
Absolutely. Excellent. I feel like somebody else over here did Tanya, did you have your hand raised at one point? Yeah.
I did, but it was more about the induction, and I was kind of curious what you all think about using a similar induction, because I find with my one-on-one clients that their mind, it gets used to it, so they go in quickly, and I can change it slightly. So I'm wondering within the group if that's something similar, or if you want to keep their brain active by changing it, like if that's intentional.
Yeah. I just like to create fresh, creative, new stuff all the time. I do have some clients that I notice that are one-on-one clients that like kind of that repetition, kind of they get used to it, almost like boring them into to a trance. But I don't do that with the with the online groups. I like to create some kind of an induction and deepener that kind of ties in with a theme of whatever it is that we're doing, or just mix it up a little bit, right? It also helps to keep me grounded, right? When I'm doing, instead of doing something that's kind of repetitive all the time, it helps to keep me grounded. Yeah. Anybody else? Virginia.
About the induction, speaking of, you've got a lot of material in your head, but when you're doing the induction, are you just saying it or are you reading it?
I do have notes in front of me, but I don't necessarily follow along with the scripted, I might ad lib some things. And especially like when we get into the content of the regression, if some things came up, questions or little tidbits within the group, I might also weave that into the experience.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Fantastic. Anybody else? Yeah, Virginia.
Would you be willing to share some of your wonderful scripts and ideas?
Maybe, but they're not necessarily anything, I might customize things I see out there and put different things together, but I don't think it's necessarily anything new that hasn't been put out there before.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, except for the ad lib parts, which it's ad lib. Yeah. Anything else? In fact, Virginia, some of the things that are in your book are fantastic. I use them all the time. So yours and Holly's book are well worn. Yeah. Always kind of searching around for new ideas and new material and new ways to say things. And how do I rearrange this to make it new? Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, Shelley.
It's just popped into my head, but as an idea, have you ever done it by age group? Say, done a group for teens or young adults or something that might be germane to things that they're facing in today's world?
That is such a beautiful idea. I would love to do a teenage group. The people that I get in the group regressions are anywhere from their, I would say, early 20s on up. One-on-ones, I'm seeing more younger people than I did years ago. I'm seeing younger and younger people. I really believe that we are waking up, right, as a collective. But I love that idea because I do think that that there are some specific things going on right now with the youth where they could use some support. That's an excellent idea.
Would you get consent then?
Yeah.
On that?
Well, if they're under
Yeah.
18, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Definitely want to cross our T's and dot our I's with this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. If there's no further questions, we can wrap up. And I thank you all for your attention and your presence and your beautiful questions. It's felt very interactive. I love it. And if you're somebody who has been contemplating this, I hope now that you can walk into this with an open mind. And again, remembering the most important thing is the energy that we take into these sessions. It doesn't just happen one-on-one, right? But it happens with group, it happens over Zoom. We're still bringing an energy into the session that we keep our clients safe and protected and educate them and teach them how to take care of themselves. This is another thing. When we teach them how to take care of themselves in these settings, that's empowering for them. And they can use that in other areas of their life. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank you
great.
so much.
Thank you,
It was
Susan.
wonderful.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Everybody. See you at the
Thank
next gathering.
See you at the next gathering.
All right.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.